I haven't done a balcony video for a while, so I thought I'd get on the balcony here to start off this video. Not much of a view. But Nala has been out here. She likes to sit on the balcony sometimes. All right. In this one, we're talking about how a narcissist reacts to their defeat. Because many of you may wonder what happens when they finally get caught, when they're finally exposed, when you've really backed them into a corner, you've covered all bases. Do they finally admit defeat? Do they admit that you've got them? You've pinned them down? What do? How do they react? Because I know if there's one thing that is extremely difficult, it's trying to hold these people accountable, bring them to justice. It's a very difficult thing to do when you're dealing with a narcissist, because if there's one thing that they typically will never do, it is admit defeat. It is accept accountability for their actions and the things that they have done to people. That's typically the last thing that they will ever do. So let's talk about what happens when they finally do face defeat. Let's talk about how they react to that. Unsurprisingly, the first thing that they are going to do when you expose them for their actions, for the harm that they do, the damage that they cause, the wicked, evil people that they are, when you back them into a corner, when you cover all bases, when you finally expose them, when you defeat the narcissist, they are going to play the victim. They're going to act like, yeah, even though you've caught them red-handed, it's not really their fault. So they will try and gain sympathy and still shift the blame. Even when you've got them, even when you've caught them out, they're still just going to try and get the blame off of themselves. So they're not going to accept their defeat. They're going to try and push it away. They're not just going to lie down and take it. Because if there's one thing no narcissist wants to do, is to be accountable, to show up as themselves. They don't ever want to have to be themselves. They don't ever want to have to face the consequences as a result of their actions. They don't want anything to do with it. They don't ever want to come to the light and accept the people that they are. So they will play the victim. And then they will lash out with rage, insults, if that doesn't work. If you don't believe in them, they will get very angry. And, this is often quite unusual. If you're dealing with a true victim, and at first you don't believe in them, they typically won't get so angry. Sometimes they might, but usually they're probably going to feel sad. They're going to be more withdrawn. But with narcissists, they're going to get angry. They're going to rage. They're going to insult you. And they may even launch a smear campaign against you to try and pull everyone onto their side, believing their distorted views of things, to get people to see them as the victim rather than as the perpetrator. But if that doesn't work, they will go silent. They will disappear. And you won't hear from them for some time. And why do they do that? Why do they disappear? Why do they run away? It's because they feel insecure. So they are trying to regain control. But really what they want is to have the upper hand. They want to make you run away. They want to make you feel uncomfortable being yourself. They want to make you feel like there's something wrong with you. They want you to not feel comfortable in your own skin, to not feel grounded, so that it's then more easier for them to brainwash you, so that you will then adopt what they want you to think, what they want you to believe about yourself. But if they're unable to manipulate you, if they're unable to brainwash you, then they will just disappear. They are not going to remain in a situation where that light is on them, where they are being exposed, where they are like a deer in the headlights. They are not going to remain in that type of situation. They are going to run away because they will be feeling very insecure in that moment. They're not going to be feeling too good about themselves because you're bringing the truth to light and you're not buying their victim story. So they're just not even going to want to be there at all. They're not going to want to be around you. So again, they will disappear if you don't fall for that. Their victim playing tactics. And they will wait for things to die down. They will hope that time will heal your wounds and you will begin to feel better after a few days, maybe a few weeks in some cases. And then they will hoover you back with fake apologies and promises. They will act like now they're finally going to change, they're finally going to be better. And they may even just accept fault. They won't want to talk too deeply about it. They won't want to get into specifics, but they will pretend to agree with you, to be on the same page, as though they can see where you're coming from. Like they get you, they understand you. They will pretend to, but they don't really feel the way that you do. And that's what's important. They can read into your emotions with cognitive empathy. They can read into how you're feeling. And they can kind of make the connection. They can see why you would feel that way about what they've done. But they can't actually feel it. They can't feel that what they've done is wrong. They can't feel what you're going through. They can't grasp, understand it. And so, of course, the fake apologies, the promises, it doesn't mean anything. And that's why they really just like to keep it short. They don't want to go too deep into it. Because if you were to ask more questions, then you would realize that they're just lying to you. And that you're actually poking at a wound by just trying to get them to open up and be vulnerable about their own behavior, about how they have treated you. And that's why they don't like to go deeper into it. They don't want to talk about it. They will tell you that they understand, that they agree with you, that they see your side. And they may even apologize. They may say that they're sorry. But you just give it time, because after a certain amount of time, everything that you held them accountable for, everything that they said that they could see your side, they could understand your point of view, they're going to go back on all of that. Just give it a few weeks, a few days in some cases, and they will begin to project those failures onto you. Even though you may have already sat them down, explained everything to them, and they seemingly understood. They may have even said to you, I understand. I see where you're coming from. I see your point of view. And then you give it some more time, and then they're projecting these failures and mistakes onto you again. Because although they said those things to you, although they said that they understood, they really didn't. They were just pretending. They were acting like they could see your side of things. They pretended to see themselves as the perpetrator, as the abuser, and you as the victim. And maybe at some level they could see that. They could understand that at some level, because they're not completely stupid. They're not completely insane. They do know that what they do is wrong. That's why they hide it. That's why they live in denial. But then they push it away. And when they came back, giving you the apologies and the promises, that was all surface level. It didn't go deep. It wasn't true emotion. It wasn't vulnerability. They didn't really feel it in their heart and soul. It wasn't genuine. Because they really don't care. All they care about is managing their own feelings. The very feelings that they don't want to deal with, that they don't want to accept about themselves. And that's why after a certain amount of time, they then project these things onto you. And it's like a complete spin around, a complete twist of events. And then you're left feeling very confused, because you may be remembering how they admitted fault just a few days or weeks ago. And now they're twisting it around on you. And now it's all about how you were always the problem. So this can be very confusing. But this is exactly what they will do. They're not just going to accept defeat. They're not just going to accept fault. It may seem like they do initially, but it's all fake. It's just whatever they have to do to manipulate your emotions. Because at that point they realized you're not going to buy into them being the victim. You're not going to give them any sympathy. And yet they still want to get back in with you. They still want to get more supply. So they'll just tell you whatever they think you want to hear. They'll tell you they understand. They'll say, yes, okay, I'm at fault. How I treated you wasn't right. But they don't really feel it. It's not genuine remorse. And that's how, after a certain amount of time, they then just switch it up on you. They twist it around on you. And although they're not completely crazy, now let's talk about really just how delusional they go. Because since they have to believe this about you, right? They have to believe that you are the problem, that you are the abuser, that you've done all sorts of things to them and they are the victim. They have to believe this about themselves. They cannot accept that it is them. They cannot accept that they are at fault. So you look at this from their skewed perspective and belief system. What should happen if someone has done you wrong? If someone has harmed you? If someone has abused you, betrayed you? What should happen to that person? I mean, think about it from a logical perspective. That person needs to be disciplined. punished. But here's the problem, that's how they're seeing you. That's how they've brainwashed themselves to view you, because they don't want it to be them even though it is them, and they've done all of these horrible things to you. So they have to live in denial, and they have to brainwash themselves into seeing you as the abuser. They're looking at you as the perpetrator to save themselves. They have to throw you under the bus. And in order for that to be true, you would then have to be blamed, punished. And this is why they then obsess over getting revenge and getting even. And this is the crazy thing about it, because you've already been through so much. I mean, it's like you've been to hell and back 1,000 times. You've already dealt with so much injustice. Meanwhile, you've sacrificed your life for them time and time again. And yet their mindset is focused on getting even with you. They're focused on putting you in your place, getting revenge on you. You see how warped their mindset is, because they have to think this way to save themselves. And it's like this in any moment. And it never ends. It's a never-ending cycle. So they will abuse you, they will harm you, betray you. And because they don't want to accept that about themselves, that they are the problem, that they are a horrible person, because they don't want to accept it, they have to project it onto you. They have to blame you, punish you even more, abuse you even more, betray you even more, to confirm that narrative. But deep down they know that it's unjust, it's unwarranted. And then they feel even more shame, so then they have to abuse you even more, betray you even more. And this is why it's like they're constantly trying to win a game that they can never win. Because it's just never-ending punishment with them. It never stops, it never ends, because it's just a vicious, never-ending cycle. Because they just can't go within and accept blame. They can't accept that it is them. So they have to keep coming after you. They have to keep beating you down and never stop, because if they were ever to stop, then they would feel like it's them and they are the problem. And they wouldn't feel so good about themselves. So they don't want to feel that way. So this is how this happens. This is why, as long as you're around them, you're always going to get devalued, you're always going to get abused, betrayed. You're always going to have to deal with all of these problems. This is why, it's because of their warped, delusional mentality. It's because they don't want to accept the truth about themselves. They don't want to accept defeat. This is how it turns out that way. But in some cases, they may not be able to get to you. They may not have the means to tear you down. You may have very strong boundaries. You may have a support network. You may have moved away. So they may not be able to get at you and to serve you with the type of treatment, behavior, or response that they would like to. And when that happens, when they can't reach you, they're just going to act unbothered. They're just going to act like they don't even care, because what can they do about it anyway? They'll just try and suppress the emotions, because you're just out of reach at that point. You've got strong boundaries. You've got a wall, a fortress. You've got a support network. So at that point, you're unreachable. They can't get to you. So all they can really do in that moment is act like they're not really bothered, they don't really care about it. And they may wait for a later time if they have access to you again, and that's when they will let it all out. So since they can't get to you in that moment, they will then seek out escapism to numb their emotions. They will seek out a new source of supply. Because they want to fill that void. They're searching for meaning, a purpose, a sense of understanding outside the fact that they are the problem. And yeah, they found that through blaming, punishing, abusing you. That's what they provided them with. But without that, it leaves a void. And that's why they seek out a new source of supply to fill that void, to make them feel something. Because otherwise they are completely empty. And this is what it's like when you're dealing with a narcissist. Your life just begins to feel so empty. You begin to feel depressed. And you may have certain things that you like, that you're interested in, certain things that you enjoy. And it could be anything. It could be a sport. It could be listening to music, a TV show, journaling, whatever it is. But they hate it, when they see that anything is distracting you, but they're not your sole source of influence. So then whatever you're doing, they have to pull that into their realm. But of course, all they have is a void. They have no energy or emotion to bring to it. And that's why they're seeking to be your only source of influence. So all they ever really bring to your life, all they ever bring to your passions and interests is death. They suck the life out of it. And you may have had a certain vice, you may have had a certain thing that helped you to distract yourself from them. And they will just pull you away from it. They will just devour it, consume it. This is what they do. Because they just have a void. Constant feelings of emptiness. And so they latch onto anything that they can. And then you're forced to jump outside of yourself, jump outside of your own skin, and then jump into something else. A fantasy, maybe a movie, a storybook, whatever it is. And they're constantly having to chase after that. This is why, as Michelle Neves mentioned in one of her videos, I remember she said, it's like she had to wait for the narcissist to go out of the house before she could even read a book. And then she was so paranoid, she would hear the car coming down the drive, the keys going in the door. And then she had to hide the book like it was her lover. This is what it's like. They have a void. Constant feelings of emptiness. They have to cling to anything, latch onto it, and just suck it dry. So that they can feel something. So that they don't have to feel empty. And this is why if they can't get to you, then they will have to seek out a new source of supply. They will have to drain someone else now. And just as it was with you, it starts off with a love bombing, then it goes into the devaluation, the discard. And then they may come back and hoover you after they've given it some time. After they hope that everything is blown over. But even when they're going off with this new supply, they're still talking about you. They're still worried about what you're doing. And actually, many of you may be surprised to learn that they're using you to acquire the new source. They're rewriting the narrative so that they can play the victim. Because maybe the new source isn't that interested in them. And this is exactly what they do when they feel like they're not that appealing to a source. Is they will play the victim. They will try and get them to feel sorry for them. So this is likely what they're doing now. But if they lose their new supply, if they lose their enablers, their flying monkeys, they will spiral into self-pity and depression. Because like I said, they have a void. They need to latch on to something and just suck it dry, drain the life out of it. They are energy vampires. They have to kill so that they can feel whole inside. But even then, it's temporary, so they have to keep it going. This is why they've got to have supply, enablers, flying monkeys, people to feed into them. They need that. They can't live without it. Because without all of these things to distract them, then they would have to accept and react to their defeat. They would have no choice but to do that. And of course, that's the last thing that they want to do. The last thing that any narcissist ever wants to do is to take accountability, accept defeat, live in reality. No narcissist wants to do that, and that's why there's all of these different ways that they will react to the defeat. And all it really is deflection, distraction. Because they just don't want to deal with it. They're not like normal people, normal humans. They don't want to accept when they've done things wrong, even though deep down they know that they have. It's just that they've got so many skeletons in the closet. There's so many things. It's like if they were to accept just one thing that they've done wrong, if they were to accept the blame, they know that would open the floodgates to everything else in the past. And that's why they can't deal with any sort of criticism. They just won't tolerate anything. They're hypersensitive to it. They're like loose cannons. They just explode. They rage. Because deep down they know just how horrible they are. And so they don't ever want to have to accept these things about themselves. They just put it onto you. Or they just disappear, then they come back when they think that it's blown over. So yeah, this is what happens. Did you think they would just lie down and accept defeat? Of course not. If they were to do that, they wouldn't be a narcissist. I mean, this is the whole point. And this is often how you know what you're dealing with, is that they will never accept it. They will only accept it if they have no other choice. And even then, it's not even a choice that they're making. It's just there's no other distraction. There's nothing else for them to latch onto. They're just left alone by themselves with the void. And that is a very uncomfortable experience for them. As for you, if you have processed the emotions, if you have taken accountability for the things that you have done, and if you have accepted the things that have been done to you, being alone, being in solitude, it is bliss. It is peaceful. And you probably love going for a hike in the woods, climbing a mountain. You probably love doing all of those things, as I do. Because that's just how it feels once you heal and process the emotions. Once you resolve these things. But it's never going to be like that for them. They have to constantly live in fantasy for the rest of their lives, and they're never going to know how beautiful reality is. It feels so good to be connected to yourself, to integrate the good and bad parts of yourself, your flaws and mistakes, into a part of who you are instead of denying them. It feels so much better that way. But that is something they're likely to never experience. And this is why they're so irritable. This is why they're all over the place. This is why they can't sit still. Because they refuse to accept these things about themselves. And instead they have to be delusional. They have to live in fantasy. They have to cause all sorts of problems for you. For this reason. And yeah, this is why we talk about going no contact, because there's nothing that you can do to fix them. They've got to go within. And the only way that's ever going to be a possibility is if they are alone, is if there are no distractions, and the only thing they're left with is themselves, their void, so that they will then attend to it. But as we know, that's something most narcissists are never going to want to do. They're never going to want to reflect on that. And it's because some really horrific things were done to them in their childhood. They want to act like it was perfect, some of them at least. Or they may see the things that were done to them as bad, but then they can't accept that what they did is bad. They just blame their childhood. They never go within, they never accept themselves truly and fully. And this is the problem. This is what they don't understand. This is what they don't want to understand. And this is why they will never change. They will just constantly seek distractions. And this is why you can never be yourself around them. A healed empath is their worst nightmare. So yeah, this is what happens when the narcissist accepts defeat. Let me know your thoughts on this topic. Let me know if you have any questions. And if you found this video helpful so far, give it a thumbs up. But yeah, let's have a little discussion now. Aaron Michael says they live in Alice in Wonderland for life. That's really it, they're in fantasy. And they can't understand why they're always so anxious, irritable, in a state of panic, rage. They just can't even understand it. They don't even know why. They think that it's because something's been done to them. They see it as an attack on them. They don't realize that they're doing this to themselves, a lot of them. Because many of them aren't even self-aware. They can't even make the connection. But they are doing this to themselves. And of course, this is what makes them so dangerous. Untitled asks, what about creating a new social media and blocking them? What happens then? Will they come back at you even more? That really depends. I mean, some narcissists, they don't want to put in too much effort. They may just go and find an easier target. Especially if they think that you're really done this time. Some narcissists, they do like a challenge and they will push harder. Especially if you were a good source. So it really depends on the type of narcissist you're dealing with how many options they have, especially how many options at your level. And it depends on how good your source of supply was. And also, if they can get to you, if you have strong boundaries, if you have a support network, restraining orders, all of these will determine whether or not they will come back at you even more or not. PB says he acts like his childhood was perfect, yet will not speak on it. Not a word. Yeah, I mean, I've heard different stories from narcissists. Like sometimes they'll say their childhood was perfect. Other times they've said there were a lot of problems and they were abused. They were even physically abused. But then that's in one moment, and then in another moment, then they're saying the opposite. Then they're saying that there were problems, or they're saying that it was perfect, and then it just switches around again. So the story's always inconsistent. They will change any story, they will rewrite any narrative and switch it back again, depending on whatever serves them in the moment, whatever gives them the advantage, because that's all they really want. So initially they may play the victim and talk about their ex or their family. And then if it's in the middle of the relationship when they're devaluing you, then you confront them and say, oh, you said before you have all these problems as everyone. Then they will just come out and say that their childhood was perfect. They never had a problem with any of their exes. They would just completely rewrite the story of everything they said to you based on whatever serves them. Layla says it doesn't sound like they accept their defeats, just shift blame to other people. Yeah, that's just it, They do not want to accept their defeats. Subconsciously, they haven't got a choice. Deep down, they do accept it, but then it's like there's another layer above that where they are in denial and they're trying to push it down. And then above that, on the surface level, they just completely don't even acknowledge it. So there's different layers to this. Aaron Michael says, nothing can quench their anxiety. The money I spent on lavender oil, lavender soap, lavender products in general. Oh, you can try everything. I mean, you can run them a hot bath several nights a week with scented candles. You can try and teach them to meditate. You can try and make everything perfect for them. You could do this for years, and at the end of it, they will tell you that you never did anything for them. Geneva Cordoba says, has to be bad to your nervous system. Oh, narcissists love your nervous system. They love to get the adrenaline releasing in your body. It's kind of like they've they've been starved of love, attention for such a long time, especially at the quality that you're able to offer, and they just want to max you out. It's kind of like a teenager who is in like a sports car and they've never driven one before. It's like a toy to them, and they just want to max it out. They just want to rev it to the max, see how fast it can go. They just want to pimp you out because it's just so much excitement, and they're so greedy and entitled. They just want to get it all out of you, to see what you can do. Just maximize what you can produce. So that's what they do. That they send you into survival mode, into fight or flight. They get the adrenaline rushing through your veins because they just want to pimp you out, max you out. And, it reveals a complete lack of empathy. But they just view you as a toy, an object, rather than a human being. And it's just absolutely disgusting. It is vile behavior. But this is what they're like. This is what they do. And this is why you have to be very careful. Always focus on calm, relieving anxiety, and use the grey rock. Don't chase after any form of excitement. Don't feed into your own insecurities, jealousy. These types of things, it's going to provoke fear. And it's going to put you in a state of hyperarousal, which will gradually lead to adrenal fatigue, where you will be completely exhausted. They will wear you down. They will burn you out. Maybe Reese says, it was very scary when I left. He was trying to stop me and I showed him my phone, ready to call 911. I was scared we'd be a Dateline episode. They do become dangerous in their rage. I'm not familiar with that show, Dateline. I'm guessing it's something like a crime show. I'm very into my crime shows and interrogations. I'm always looking to learn more about these things. But yeah, what I will say, as I always say, do be very careful when you try to leave a narcissist, because you never know how they might react to it, and their jealousy, their rage. I've seen so many different interrogations, reports online, where narcissists have ended up murdering their victims out of jealousy, losing control. So you have to be very careful, because they can put your life at risk and think nothing of it. Because they'll just see it as though, they murdered you, they own you now. Now they possess you. They own your life. Your life is theirs. And that's really what they want, because they're not happy with themselves, they're not happy with their own life. They want to own yours. FR08 says, if you don't understand what a narcissist is, you're going to think you're one. Well, yeah, that's their goal at the end of the relationship, when they play the victim, is to make you think that you are the narcissist. And it may make you think that by the end of it, because they've destabilized you, gaslit you, got you to engage in maybe reactive abuse, and you're now very angry after how they've treated you. So, it's really a way for them to get you to calm down, to get you to stop seeing them as the abuser, from being angry at them and wanting them to face justice. It's them trying to get you to stop all of that and to let your guard down again by painting you as the villain. And of course, by them doing that, by them making it out like you're the narcissist, it's just starting the cycle again. They will just end up abusing you even more and still blaming you. So, that's not going to make a difference either. Even if you go along with it, even if you just say, all right, yeah, I'm following your narrative. You just say, okay, I hold my hands up. I am the narcissist. I am the abuser. I did you wrong. And you were so good to me. I admit it. Even if you do that, all that's going to happen is they're going to continue blaming and punishing you for the rest of your life. And no matter what you do, it will never make up for anything that you were meant to have done. It won't make anything better, because the problem isn't you. You can't fix a problem that's not even your problem. So, you can comply as much as you want. You can go along with it. You can say that you're that narcissist. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to make anything better for you. What will make things better for you is, instead of trying to change anything with them, just focus on yourself. You can change everything about yourself. You can improve. You can't improve anything through their lens, because it's a distorted lens. They are the problem. So nothing's going to change through their eyes, because they have to fix themselves first. You can only fix you. And this is why, it's really no point living in fear, walking on eggshells. It's not going to change anything. They may want you to think that it will. I can tell you doing that, it just makes you a better source of supply. It just makes it easier for them to abuse you even more. So, you've got to stand up for yourself, but at the same time, do be very careful, because these people are dangerous. And, when they feel like they're losing control, they can react in very unpredictable ways. Untitled asks, so are narcissists obsessive? That's not really a trait of a narcissist, at least not in the DSM-5. Because not all narcissists are obsessed with other people, at least. I mean, if there's one thing that they are obsessed with, it's their false image, their reputation. That's their obsession. The only reason they will be obsessed with anyone else is because they view them as an extension of themselves, whether good or bad. But typically, Many narcissists, if they have other options, they're just going to go elsewhere. They're going to find new supply. They're just going to do whatever benefits them the most. PB says they love to get you out of your body, screaming. And I refuse to let that happen again. I've never had someone get me like that. Yeah, that's it. They want to get you jumping out your skin so that they can jump in there and have a good go of it. Because that's really what this is all about. They don't feel good about themselves. They don't feel good within themselves. They feel much better getting inside of you. And so that's why they do everything they can to possess you, like a demonic possession. They try to own you. They don't want you to have any peace. They don't want you to feel comfortable in your own skin, because they want to occupy that space. So this is why they do this. This is why they want to own you. This is why they view you as an extension of themselves, because it doesn't feel good in their own body and mind. So they want to get you to filter everything through them so that they can live vicariously through you. But no, I mean, the narcissists who kill, that is more rare. This is a very small percentage of them. So, it's not to say that the narcissist you're dealing with, if you try to leave, that they're going to end up trying to kill you. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is that it can happen. I mean, I've seen many reports, many interrogations, and I'm talking about people who have been on this earth for a very long time, and they've never been in any trouble with the law. And then all of a sudden, because they became like a junkie, and when a certain source of supply, they got addicted to them, they couldn't live without it. Then it got them to the point where, the only way they could feel better is if this person just wasn't alive anymore. So it can happen. It really depends, if they view you as something that they really own, possess. That's going to determine how bothered they're going to be when they lose control. I just had to clear that up because I can see, some of you panicking in the live chats. So, I don't want to scare anyone. My advice is to speak to a therapist or coach first, before you leave, before you go no contact. It's better to be safe than sorry. But yeah. Up at the balcony. Mountains in the background. This is Nala's new spot now. She likes to sleep up here. But yeah, that's it for this video. How a narcissist reacts to their defeat. If this video was helpful for you, please do give it a thumbs up. It helps the YouTube algorithm, so let's work together to get this very important message out there. Just think, there's so many people just like you who may be going through a similar thing, and they could really do with this advice. They could really do with the support, so give the video a thumbs up. Let's work together. And also subscribe if you're new. Click all notifications. That way you will be notified when I upload a new video or go live again. And drop a comment down below in the comment section. Any questions that you have, let's start a discussion. I am reading your comments every day. If you would like guidance and support in your healing journey, you can book a one-on-one with me by going to narcsurvivor.co.uk. I appreciate all of your donations, no matter how small. Donate by going to paypal.me/narcsurvivor. And also you can follow me on my Instagram. You can see what I'm doing when I'm not making videos. It is Narc Survivor YouTube. All right, so that's it for this one. Thank you all for joining me on another Narc Survivor Live video. And I will talk to you in another one very soon.